Hello everybody, welcome back. We are learning Azure Administration and today we will begin with our new module. We call it as Azure Administration, and so far we learned about governance and compliance, and before that we learned about Azure AD Administration, and today we'll be beginning third module. And in this module, we'll be learning what is a resource manager, how significant is it in terms of authentication and authorization, and we'll also be seeing what are the options available for administering Azure. So this paper again little deviating actually, but this module actually just outlines how and what are the ways we can administer Azure. So in this way we will begin with resource manager, then we'll learn about portal and cloud shell. We'll also see PowerShell and CLI. We'll implement some ARM templates. Likewise, we'll be learning many things from this module. It's a very important module. And to start with Azure Resource Manager, right? So in this Resource Manager, we'll see what is it and what are the terminology used in it, and when do we use resource groups, deployments, moving, and all those things. These are all day-to-day activities we'll be covering here. To start with Resource Manager, right? Here, Resource Manager, in my words, I will call it as an operating system of the cloud. Simple definition, right? Because if you want to interact with anything in this world, right? Like when I say anything in the sense, server, right? So, for example, you have hardware. On top of it, you'll have firmware. On top of it, you'll have operating system, and on top of it, you'll have apps. Right? This is the hierarchy. Means in order to interact with hardware, you'll have firmware. In order to interact with firmware, you'll have the operating system. And again, on top of it, you'll install the applications, and the user again comes here. When user will interact with the applications, and application will be stored on the operating system. Operating system is again requires a firmware, which is nothing but a language where operating system can understand hardware. Similarly, for cloud also, you need something, and that something we call it as ARM, Azure Resource Manager. And this Azure Resource Manager will actually act like an operating system, and users will actually interact with it, Azure Resource Manager. So users sitting on computer will interact with Azure Resource Manager, and it being the operating system to the cloud will give you access to the cloud. Right? It's as simple as that. In simple definition, Azure Resource Manager will act like an interface between user and the cloud, and it will actually act like an operating system of the cloud with which users can interact with the cloud and do their work, day-to-day jobs. So in simple, ARM actually, where is it actually? If you see your portal, this is ARM. This left-hand side, this is called ARM Resource Panel. We call it as Resource Panel, and this Resource Panel is the one you will interact with all the APIs. So if you click here, this is an API. So whatever it is loading here, it's an API. If you click it here, it is loading this console here. It's an API. Means it's a piece of JSON format language which is constructed with, and using that you are actually interacting with the cloud here. Likewise, this is a resource panel with which you will interact. Means if you want to interact with virtual machines, you will come here and interact with the virtual machines. Same way, if you want to interact with networking, you come here and interact with the networking. Likewise, this Azure Resource Panel will be acting like a resource manager, and with which we will interact with the cloud. It's as simple as that. So while doing that, it will offer us some benefits here. So what are those benefits here? For example, here if you see, I'm actually sitting on the portal. Assume I open portal, and when I open portal, this is me here on my local machine, right? I open browser and I want to interact with the cloud, and this is the cloud, right? This is my cloud, nothing but Azure, right? And I'll open a browser and I will log into the cloud, and when I'm logging into the cloud, what is happening? It is authenticating me, and also it is authorizing me. Who is that? This is the guy who is authenticating and also authorizing, and then I can interact with my resources, all these resources. Nothing but this piece itself is like a layer in between user and the resources. That is the reason they call it as resource manager. Means it is a layer which will help us to manage all the resources on the cloud, and it acts like an operating system, so it can authenticate and it can also authorize, right? It provides a consistent management layer, and it enables you to interact with all your groups and the solutions whatever you have in Azure Marketplace, and it will help you to deploy your resources, right? It will completely help you to deploy, redeploy, delete, manage, control. Everything is possible with the resource manager, and it will provide you security also, and also auditing and all tagging features. Means all in all, this resource manager will provide you all the benefits like an operating system. Simple, right? And it's a combination of all APIs. So collection of APIs will form the interface, and that interface is again broken into in the form of APIs. Each is an API. If you want to interact with data source, you will have an API. If you want to interact with web apps, it will have an API. Virtual machines, it will have an API. So that API is nothing but an interface designed to interact with. Simple, right? So any questions here? And here what happens is sorry. So here I'm telling you, like, it will act like an operating system. It will also help you provide authentication and authorization, right? For example, if I say I'm a user, right? I'm a user, I logged into Azure, right? After logging into Azure, this is the user I'm in, logged into Azure using portal, and after logging into the portal, at the time of logging into the portal itself, what happens is it will have Azure AD here. Or I can say, I will draw it here itself, Azure AD, right? So let me remove this guy. So there will be Azure AD, right? Triangle means it's a representation of Azure AD, or directory, you call it as. So anytime you see a triangle, it means Active Directory. So here, using Azure Active Directory, it is doing authentication, and using RBAC, yesterday we learned, right? Using RBAC roles, it is actually authorizing resources. Means the moment user logs in here, he will again get authenticated at Azure AD, and thirdly, he will be again authorized using RBAC roles. So here, the moment every user logs in, first thing is authenticated, then he will be authorized with the help of all the roles whatever he has been assigned. Means whether this user can access databases or not, VMs or not, applications or not, storages or not, all these things will have some access control lists, and those access control lists are called as tokens. Means at the time of logging in, Azure AD authenticates whether that user is present in the portal or not. It will authenticate. Once he is there, it will again forward that request to Azure Resource Manager to check what all the places he has got access at the time of authentication itself. For example, if user is a Windows administrator, then he will have to have a token. Then what happens? Azure AD will attach this token back to the user and gives it back to the user, and user will take it back, and again user can directly access the virtual machines. Likewise, anytime any user trying to access any resource will have to present a token. Means it happens automatically. Who will take care of those tokens? Azure Resource Manager. So Azure Resource Manager will ensure that it will connect with all RBAC roles, means associated with the user, and it will declare, okay, this user is authorized to access virtual machine and this user is not authorized to access these things. Likewise, every user will have number of tokens. Means wherever he needs access, he has to present a token to AD, only then it will allow him to access that particular resource with the help of Resource Manager. So likewise, Azure Resource Manager will act like an operating system to the cloud, which will help users to log in and access the resources, right? And accordingly, it gets authorized and authenticated, right? So that is the significance of ARM here. Without ARM, we can't do anything. Earlier, this wasn't there. Prior to 2015, it was all classic model we had, but now we don't have any classic model. Completely, we have this model. Same way, if you are coming through the PowerShell, so this is one mode of entering into the cloud, coming through portal, and the other mode is PowerShell and CLI. Even that way also you can log into the environment, means you can access cloud resources. And for that you need to install SDKs, nothing but a piece of software you have to install in your local machine so that you can interact using these interfaces also. So as a user, right, what I will do, it's totally up to me whether I want to access cloud using portal or access using Cloud Shell or access using PowerShell. It's totally up to me, right? It's my own wish and will, right? How will I access portal? But if you want to access PowerShell, access cloud through PowerShell or CLI, you need to install this SDKs onto your local machine. So this is my local machine. So I have to install this software so that I'll be getting this SDKs installed on my local machine, and using those SDKs I can connect to the ARM. That way what happens, I'm getting options 1, option 2 and option 3, and this is the reason I gave you options initially when we started the course, right? I gave you the labs, how to install Azure PowerShell in your local machine and how to install CLI on your local machine, and this is purely programmatic, like VSTS, or there are several ways, like anything connecting through the programs, we call it as REST clients, like IO device, like your mobile devices, tablets, those things again may use REST clients. And also you have mobile application. Mobile application also you can install it on your mobile, and once you install it on mobile device, then even through mobile device also you can connect to the Azure resources. So this way also you can administer your resources. So mobile application you have to install. Apple provides, Android provides, Windows also provides, but Windows again we have very less. But ultimately it's very important. So any questions here? Right. So then comes the terminology. So whenever we are learning Azure, in AD we have some terminology, in governance we have some terminology, in administration we have some terminology. Every piece will have some or the other terminology. Ultimately the beginning is again with terminology. So here in Azure you come across some terminology called resources all the time. So what are these resources? Simply is a service or instance, right? Any resource which is providing services to the end users is a resource. The VM is a resource, DB is a resource. Anything we utilize, it's called a resource. And where will you place these resources? In a group, and that is called resource group. So resource group is like a container. We will place all the resources into a resource group, and this resource group will actually help me build my organization and organize all my resources. So that is the power of resource groups here. And again there is something called resource manager templates, and this resource manager templates are nothing but your what I call JSON file with which we will define what I want in Azure to deploy. I'm repeating, using resource manager templates I can define declaratively, means whatever I write it in the definition, it will do it for me. Whatever I want to write, I can write it. So likewise most of the companies, when it comes to automation and deployment, they will depend on resource manager templates. ARM templates we call it as ARM templates. And since we are using ARM templates, it will give us a benefit of defining JSON elements in the file, where I can declare what I want. I can declare whatever I tell it, it will do it for me. And likewise you have something called resource providers. So these resource providers are again a kind of, for example, this is my company, assume, right? This is my company. Somebody wants to enter into the company. How can they enter? I mean physically, just assume that this is a physical company and somebody wants to come inside. How will they enter? There has to be some way, right? Only then they can enter, right? If this user wants to get inside my company, there has to be some way, only then they can enter into the company. And do you think having one entrance is better or having multiple entrances is better? Which one is better? Take any company in this world, how many entrances will they have? Max 1 or 2, not more than that, right? Depending on the requirement, they'll have 2 as an alternate, but mostly they'll have only one entry.
Sorry, your voice is breaking.
Is it same with everybody? Is it breaking for everybody?
Sorry, your voice is breaking.
No, I don't think so. It's fine for me.
Yeah, it's fine for me as well.
Yeah. So check your internet connection, Raju. So, but ultimately, coming back to the topic here, like I'm a user, I want to get into the company. If I want to get into the company, there has to be an entrance to come inside, right? Similarly, this is Azure. This is Azure, and some user wants to use some service here, and another user wants to use another service. Another user wants to use another service. So likewise, we have different users using different services. Right? Different users wants different services. So if different users wants to use different services, what I have to do is I have to give them the entrance. Right? I have to provide them the entrance. So this entrance is a kind of providers. It's a kind of provisioning. It's a kind of providing services. So this way what happens, users can access those services, those particular services by means of service providers. Nothing but here I'm calling it as resource providers. Right? Every resource will have a provider. Resource provider, resource provider, resource provider, resource provider. So likewise, whatever resources I'm using, only those services I'm opening the gates. Not everything, because Azure is collection of 10K services. If nobody is using 10K services, why will I keep the door open, right? There is no point in keeping the door open, right? I will enable only the services which people are using. And if I'm opening everything, again a hacker, right? A hacker can enter into and break in and again chime in and again break things, right? Hackers have ability to do that if I keep things open like that, right? That is the reason I will use only the resources which are required, hence the providers are needed. In simple, if I go back to the Azure portal here and if you go to subscriptions, right? Whenever you are building services in Azure, I'm repeating, whenever you are building services in Azure, what you have to do, you have to enable the resources. Whichever service, whichever resource you want to use it, you have to enable them. So again, after coming to the subscription, you will see something called resource providers here. Can you see here? You have resource providers. So this resource providers, you have to register it. For example, I am not using Cosmos DB, right? So there is something called Cosmos or whatever it is, or I call it as API, something, right? API management. My developers asked me to provide API management services in my company, but it is not registered. So then what I have to do, I have to select this one and say register. Simple. Means whatever your company wants to use, first thing you need to provide them. You need to register them. Once you register them, what happens? It will give the ability for the users to use these services. It's a kind of security Microsoft has put in place. We will register only the services which we want. We don't register all the services, like 10,000 services are there, right? Why do you want to open all of those? That is the reason here. That is the goal here. So likewise, you may have to register all the services required as and when and sometimes you may be asked to register the services. You will be provided with the list of the services you want to register, and accordingly you can register all the required services by coming to the respective subscription and coming to this resource provider section, selecting the service and clicking on register. If you don't want to unregister, click on unregister. If you're not using a service which is simply registered and not being used, then go for it and unregister it. That way what happens? You're closing the unwanted doors here. You're closing all unwanted doors. So that is the beauty here. Right? Any questions here?
Not here. Ahmed. Hello. Just can you throw on the third point? JSON file that allows you to declare this set of resources.
We will come to that. We'll learn that. We will actually. I mean, we have not started the ARM templates. I'll cover that when I'm going to that point. All right. Other than that, like I spoke about register resource providers. If you have any questions about this, let me know. These things we are going to learn it. We haven't learned it, and we will talk about these things elaborately in upcoming sessions, right? But this one again, this is the end. I don't talk about anything in future also. If you have any questions here, let us talk. All right, and yeah. So this is how you go to your portal and register all the items required. And again, once it is registered, click on refresh, and then just do a refresh once again. And if it is not getting registered, again click it twice. And again, once you click on that, it shows registered. This is how you come and register all the required services, right? Coming back to the points here. So yeah, so resource group deployments. Like this resource group deployments means before going to the resource group deployments, we need to talk about the resource groups, right? So what is the resource group? So far we understood, right? So I want to group the resources, right? For example, I have 3 applications, right? App 1, app 2, or whatever number I have, right? So here, traditionally what used to happen is in a data center, for example, if you're having workloads like this, an application is built on these workloads. It will have a front end, it will have a back end, it will have a storage, right? It will have some application, right? So likewise, an application is comprising of all these things. So what you'll do, you will install this on a VM. You will again it will be there on a storage box, and this app will be there on a VM. This was the traditional approach, right? In application, dependencies are installed on different resources. Means to build an application, you need all these things: front end, back end, application, and again storage, right? All these things and many more. Only then your application will be ready. Now, this is hosted on one physical server, and this is hosted on another physical server, and this is again a storage box altogether, a different thing altogether, and this is hosted on another server. Assume. Likewise, your resources are scattered all over. Your application is one, I agree, but what about the dependencies? These are all dependencies. They're all scattered all over. They are within the data center only, but they are hosted on different physical machines, different storage boxes, and so on, right? Then what happens? You need to have access to this one, you need to have access to this one, you need to have access to this one, right? And again, you need to have access to the storage account and so on, right? It's a kind of complicating things here. Instead, so what are we doing here? Instead, we are simplifying all this approach, this old-fashioned approach in the cloud. What are we doing? We are grouping them into one single entity, and that we call it as resource group, right? So in the resource group, what I will do? I will say app 1. I will call a resource group as resource group app 1, right? And here itself, I will have all the VMs required. all the workloads required, whatever workloads I have here, storage account, right? And this is again my back end, this is my application, this is my front end, or whatever it is. Whatever components you have, I'm placing everything in one resource group. It's like a container, right? It's like a container, and now access to this again is given to developers. So developers are given access to this entire resource group so that they can access entire in one shot. Means if they're asking me to deploy, for example, developers wants this environment. They want this environment. They're asking me, Narendra, can you build me one VM? Narendra, can you build me with SQL backend, front end with IIS? I want to install application on another server. I want another VM, and all this data should go into storage account. Likewise, they have given me a lot of requirements, and if they want this environment, it is me who will build it. It is me who will build it and give it back to the developers, and the developers will again do their activities, whatever activity they have, development, deployment, or upgrading application or migrating application, whatever it is, I don't know. But ultimately giving them environment is my responsibility. I am giving them the environment. And how am I giving? I'm putting everything into one box, one container. Everything is going into one RG. This way I can give back the deployments, I mean give them the environment, and those people will have access to in one shot. And again, if the management asks them, hey developer, can you give me the list of resources for your application? And he will simply go to this resource and give him the list of all the resources involved in this application in one central repository, right? This way I'm organizing all the resources related to application in a one container kind of thing. I call it as resource group. Resource group, grouping of all the resources, nothing but organizing your resources, right? So this way you need to plan. So whenever you are building an application, you have to plan accordingly how many resources are required and where should they go into. Mostly what we will do, we will follow this approach, right? So likewise, deployment, resource group deployments come into picture. Whenever I want to deploy something in this fashion, it's nothing but resource group deployments. Nothing but I'm deploying everything in a resource group so that people can have access to this entire entity and they can easily access. And that is the power of resource group here. So resource group, again, a box. This is a box where I'm placing Cosmos DB and web application, VM, and the storage account. I can organize this way, or I can simply organize resource group in this fashion. I'll place all Cosmos DBs, web servers in one RG, all VMs in one RG, all storages in one RG. It's totally up to me. However way I want to organize my things in my company, it's totally up to me, right? If I give you a folder and 1,000 subfolders and again 1,000 files, how will you organize? It's totally your wish, right? Depending on the need, you will organize them, right? If you're not organizing, what happens? Picking them up, accessing them, controlling them will become difficult. So in Azure also same thing. You want to organize things, and for that purpose we have resource groups, and you can organize things. And once you organize, before organizing these things, you should come back with the naming convention here. What is the name you want to name it for your resource group? That will be RG plus the resource group. RG and the name of the resource group. Nothing but application name. And once you name it, you cannot rename it. So once you create a container like this, and you will place all the resources within it, and afterwards if you feel like renaming it, you can't rename it. And for example, this Cosmos DB, my company is in Central India, right? And Cosmos DBs are not available in Central India. This I can bring it from South India, assume. And this I can build it in Central India. These both I can build it in Central India, but this one I can bring it from South India. Likewise, a resource group can contain resources coming from different regions. You can create this resource group in one region. You can create this resource in another region. This is another region. You can do that. But why will you do that? Your company is in South India or Central India. You will build all these resources in Central India data center only. Right? Likewise, you can invite resources from different regions. A resource can come from different locations. right? And you can do whatever you want, but it's like a folder where you're organizing your resources, right? And this will have a metadata. Means if I want to deploy an application, right? If I want to deploy an application, what I will do, right? So here I'll get rid of all these things here. Give me a moment, right? So here what I want is I want to call it as replace it with RG. Right? So this way, what am I doing? I am creating a resource group. I am calling it as an RG here, right? RG for auto insurance company. And here, what I will do, I'll just make it as stop. Make it as stop. Right? So make it as stop. So here in this one, what am I going to have here? What do I need here, right? So for example, I want something like I want a VM in that, right? The VM is required in here. Right? So this will be my application VM, this will be my front-end VM, and this will be my back-end VM, right? Likewise, I'll be having different varieties of items I'll be including, and this is my storage account, right? So likewise, I'll be building my application here, right? And my application again comprises of all these things here, right? SQL also I need, right? Right. So combiningly, my application comprises of all these components. Like this machine will be acting like SQL, or this is again a managed instance PaaS solution, and again IaaS solution. So likewise, my application is made up of all these things. Means I'm grouping all these things in one container kind of thing, and I'm calling it as resource group. And this entire resource group again represents your application. Likewise, I'm organizing my resources to represent my application in a single folder kind of thing, container kind of thing, nothing but resource groups. So likewise, you need to organize. So once you organize this, then it will be easy for you to manage, right? It will be easy for me to manage, right? If somebody asks me to deploy this, I can deploy it easily. If somebody asks me to remove it, I will remove it easily, right? So likewise, if somebody is asking me to deploy it, what I can do, I can deploy it easily. I'll bring things like this. In one shot, I will bring the deployment like this, right? And if somebody is asking me to remove it, right? If somebody is asking me to remove it, I can remove it in one shot. So that is the power of resource groups, right? I have deployed. My developers asked me to deploy 3 environments, right? So this one they are calling it as test environment, and this one they want to call it as QA. I don't know why, but they're calling it as Assume. And here they're calling it as development, right? So they were asking me to give them 3 environments here, right? So now what I will do, I will just group them here, right? So now they asked me to give them this environment, and I gave them this environment, right? After giving them this environment, they started working with their environment, and now after doing their development, again they pushed it to QA, and again so on and vice versa. They finished they did their work, and after working, they wanted to remove this environment, or this environment they want to remove, right? If they want to get rid of this environment, they can simply remove it. Means I can remove it. This entire thing together, I can remove it. So likewise, the power of resource group is again controlling resources, managing my resources. I don't know, somebody typed it. I'm unable to see. What is it? Did you type?
no, voice has become low suddenly.
Oh, voice had become low. Okay, okay. Is it okay now or?
Yeah, now okay. Now again picked
Okay.
up.
Okay. Yeah. So this is what I was talking about. This is my resource groups, and this is how I will organize all my resources, and I'll represent my application. Means my application is made up of all these things. Maybe other items also, right? An example I gave you. Likewise, you can build the environment, you can destroy the environment. You can build the environment and you can destroy the environment, the way, whatever way you want, right? Likewise, resource group deployments are very, very easy. You can bring it in moment and you can destroy it in a moment. That is the power of resource groups. So ultimately, a resource group is nothing but a collection of resources which will help me deploy things, and again which will help me organize things, which will help me control things, manage. All these things are, again, it's like a heart of your Azure. In Azure, what is most significant means resource group. Resource groups are very, very powerful, and this is where my organizations are organized, right? And like creating a resource group, it's very easy, right? So for example, if I go back here, for example, my portal, right? The first thing is you need to have a plan here. Assume that we have a plan here. Assume that I have a plan here. So here I will just get rid of it and I'll just place this one here. Sorry. I want to place this one here. So I want to call it as front end, or I'll install an application here and I call it as front end. Again, back end will be there, and again storage account will be there. Likewise, I need to first plan it. So once I plan it, what I will do, I will just go ahead and create this one, right? So here, what I will do, I will just go to resource groups and I will create a resource group first, right? So here, where do I want to create? For in Azure, whatever resource you are creating, it requires 4 things: subscription, resource group, region, and the name of the resource. 4 items are compulsory whenever you create a resource in Azure, right? Here, I am creating a new resource group. I am calling it as RG. So whenever you are creating anything, it should represent the name of the resource. Means this is a resource group, it should be RG. VM, it should start with VM. Virtual network, it should start with virtual network. SQL DB, it should start with SQL DB. Likewise, all prefixes are representation of your resource types. So where do you want this resource group? I want it in East-US. Review and create. And once the validation is passed, create it. Nothing but I'm creating a folder now. It's like a folder, and which I will consolidate everything. Means I will build a VM here, right? And again, I'll put everything in that VM, and then I can see everything in one place. So here, do you see anything here? No resources are there here, right? You don't see any resources here. So now what I'll do, I want to create some VMs here, right? So here, what I'll do, I'll just go ahead and create virtual machines or SQL DBs, whatever I want, right? So here I'll just go ahead and create VMs. Means my development team wanted an environment, I'm building them an environment. So here, what I'll just minimize this one so that I can see the things clearly. So here I need to choose what resource group I've just created, auto insurance test. And here, what is the virtual machine name I should start with? I say VM. And what is the purpose of VM? Front end. What is the environment? Test environment. And what is the number? So likewise, I need to choose it, and where is the location you want to place it, and what operating system you want on it, and what is the size, and what is the username and password for the VM. Right? So likewise, you can complete these things and review and create. Right? So once you provide these things, your VM will get validated, and once usually we need to provide all these details. We will talk about these details when we learn about virtual machines in future. Now I'm just going with the default ones and just say create. Right? So this is how you deploy a VM within the RG, within the resource group. And same way, instead of waiting on this, what I'll do, I'll take a copy of this duplicate page. I will go ahead and create another VM from another page here, and that way I'll save a little bit of time. Right. So here I'm going back to the virtual machines again, and I'm going to create another virtual machine. Means what am I trying actually? I am building this one. I'm building this entire thing here as it is. So I'm going to build a storage account, I'm going to build a SQL, I'm going to build a backend and so on, whatever it is, right? So here I'm coming back and I'm creating another VM and I'm calling it as app server, right? So here what I'll do, I'll choose the same RG, and here I'm calling it as VM app test and again 01, right? Where do you want to place it? ECUS, same place, and all these things I'm remaining as it is and providing all the credentials to log into the VM. Right, and once you provide all these details, review and create. Right, so it is acting a little bit slow, but yeah, nothing much we can do, right? So likewise, I've built my 2 virtual machines, and again, if I go back to the resource group here, right, on the resource panel, if you click on resource group, you can see the virtual machine which is already built there. So you click on the resource group which you want to see, right? Just click on that, and now you will be able to see the resources. So now you see, right? Means all VM along with all its network, database, I mean NIC card, energy, all its components are also part of the same RG. Everything will show up here. So since we have built only one VM, it is showing one VM. And same way, if I want to build a storage account in the same RG, because we want it, right? As per this application requirement, I need a storage account of SQL also, right? So here, if I go back and click on storage accounts and click on create storage, and then I told you, right? Any resource you create, it requires four items: subscription, resource group, location, and the name, which are compulsory. Without those things, you cannot create resources. Again, select the resource group you want to place this storage account in, and I told you, right, storage account should start with always storage account SA or ST, storage account, and there should not be any hyphens, this and that, right? So here I am calling it as Epic is my application name, and it is going to be held in test environment, and this number should be unique, right? This altogether, this name should be unique. And now where do you want it? I want it in ECUS. And now once I provide these 4 parameters, right, then review and create. Once the validation passes, click on create. Now what happens? The storage is also going and settling in the same RG. So now what is pending? SQL DB is pending. So what I'll do, I'll just go to SQL here, and I'll just create a new SQL database here. This is a PaaS solution, not a IaaS. PaaS means platform as a service, managed instance, right? So where I want to select the same RG, right? So where I'm calling it as database name. Database name I'm calling it as SQL DB test, or I can call it as Epic DB test 01. And now I'll do that. I'll create a new server. Means this database should be residing on a server, and that is taken care by Microsoft. So I still need to create it. It's like a VM which is being hosted on the Microsoft end. So here I call it as SQL Server Test WT, or whatever name you want to call it as. You can call it as 1. And SQL login, I call it as SQL admin, right? SQL admin, I'm using it here, and password and confirm the password. Right. So once you confirm, where do you want it? I want it in East US because my business in East US is in East US. And here you want to have an elastic pool or this and that, you need to select here, or if you want to configure any backup, right? It's unable to retrieve pricing, this and that. Again, all these things you need to choose according to the requirement, right? So say review and create. Basic. So configure database, pricing model I need to choose. Server location, I chose it right already. East US. Right. I don't know what's wrong with it. So what I can do, I can simply run my command here to create my SQL database, right? So what I will do, I'll just go ahead and build it. So build a data center. So I will just create it with one command, right? There ends the matter. So what I will do, right? So only thing is here RG place I need to confirm. So what is the RG? We are building all these things here. So this is the RG name. Only this RG I have to replace it here. We'll be learning this, how to work with these commands and all those things we'll be learning. But only thing is just create it, just one liner, right? So what I'll do, I'll go ahead and build it, and there is the matter, right? So this way I'm building all the resources in cloud, and I don't want to waste my time in troubleshooting, right? This is just a demonstration, right? So then what I'll do, I'll go back to the resource groups here, right? And after going back to the resource group, this is the resource group, right? You can see all 12 records have been created. Your storage account, your VM1 and application VM2, right? There are VMs. Right. So here you can see, or you can see all resources. Click on all resources, and from there you can see what is the resource group. Where are they residing? All are residing in the same resource group, and the disk is also there. Everything is going into one resource group, right? So this way I have built my environment. After building this environment, what I will do, I will give it access to the developers team, right? So there is a team called developers, and for those guys what I will do, I will give access, and then they will do their deployments and whatever work they want to do with the environment, they will do it. So here again, yesterday, right, RBAC rules we learned, right? So by going here, I will choose the developers group, right? Developers group, I don't have it, but the sample sake what I will do, or we can create a developers group also. Doesn't take much time. So what we can do, yeah, 104, and if you go to my labs, right, AD lab, if you go to my Active Directory lab, right, managed identities. So there is a command. You can pick that command and you can modify the command. You can create multiple users in one stretch, right? That way you'll not have to waste your time. You can save time. So you just copy this command and replace all the usernames here, right? So what is the username? I want to call it as dev1, and this dev1 username will be dev1, right? And nickname will be dev1, right? So likewise, I'm just modifying this command 3 times, right? And I will use this dev1, and I will make it as dev2 here and dev3, right? So dev2, dev3, and dev2 and dev3. Likewise, I'm just preparing commands for creating user accounts. These are CLI commands. We'll be learning it. Don't worry about it. And now what I do, just to save little bit of time, I'm creating a user account here. And again, to save little more time, I'll take another console and I'll create the second user also, right? As it is not taking much time, what we can do, we can just give it time to create it, not a problem. To create the second user, right? And be ready with the third user, right? So this way, you'll have to have your users. So once you have users, you can club them into group, right? By going to Active Directory, now you can see your users shown up here, right? You'll be seeing all the developer users here, and then you can make them 1, 2, 3 users, right? Group them. How will you group them? Creating a group. Go here and create a group here, and I call it as security group developers. I call it as SG developers, right? I call it as SG developers, and I'll make one of the developers as owner of this group, and I'll add 3 members in this. And here I can see all the devs, right? 1, 2, and 3. 3 users have been added here, and create, right? So this is how we created users, and we have created a group, and for this group I will give access on the resource group, right? So for this resource group, I am giving access to the security group. So I'll go to IAM RBAC roles, we call it as, and these users we should have ability to read, write, execute, and delete, right? I'll say add role assignment, and in here I will select the contributor role, right? Contributor role, whom do you want to give it? SG developers, and save it. That's it. Now what happens, you can open up a new incognito window, right? And here log into portal.azure.com as one of the developers. So what is the developer name here? Dev1 @wilmatech.com. And what is the password we gave him here? In the command, you can see here, Yahoo @1234 I gave it, right? Right. So this way, I'm authorizing my development team to access my cloud and work in my cloud. And this is how organizations will do. This is how your enterprise companies will allow people, right? And now my developers can see all the resources. Means if he clicks on resource group as a developer, since he has got access only to one resource group, he can see only one resource group. Though I have multiple resource groups. If you see here, I'm a owner here. I'm a top level admin rather. I can see all these different resource groups are there, but still as a user he can see only this one because he is authorized to access only one resource group. And once he clicks in here, he can see all the resources. He can see all the resources. For example, he wants to log into the VM, right? If he wants to log into the VM, what he can do, he can get access to the VM because he has already got access. So only thing is he has to know the username and password of the VM, right? For example, he will click on the VM, right? 2 VMs. So he is now want to log into the front end, and from here he wants to log into the VM. And what he will do, he will select the IP, right? And again on his machine, local machine, he types mstsc on his local machine and types the IP of the machine. And here he types in the username and password. What is the username? LADMIN and password DMOUSER @123. Now the development team member has got access to the VM now. So VM, he is happily able to log in. So this is how, as an administrator, Azure administrator will be deploying the resources and granting permissions to the required recipients, or nothing but resources to the required members, nothing but security groups. Now I'm a developer now. So I'm developer, I got access to my machine, and here I can log into the environment, right? I can do whatever I want. So this is how you can plan your environment ahead and deploy resources. Any questions so far?
Sorry, Naran. In this admin, where are you using that one? I mean, creating.
I'm sorry?
Just we are connecting to remote network desktop. So
Yeah.
we are
So
using
this
that.
one, like, yeah, I just typed in remote desktop, or you can type this one, or you can click on MSTSC here itself, or remote desktop. You can just type remote desktop here in your
Sorry,
search box.
No. The user we are using LAdmin. Where we created that one? How we created? We use the login LAdmin.
Oh, LAdmin was created locally on the machine itself, on the VM itself. On the virtual machine itself, we have created. In the machine inside the VM, we have created the account. See, since I don't have a domain joined machines, the end user developer is not using these credentials actually. I just showed you an example, but he is not an LAdmin actually. This is, if you say who am I, right? It is LAdmin, local administrator. Instead of local administrator, what you have to do, you should log in as a developer. Got it? When you can log in as a developer, if you have a domain in your company, if you have a DC, right, and that DC, this VM should be joined to that DC, then you can use your domain credentials. You can use the developer credential, right? Those credentials you can use. Otherwise, you can use local account. Did I answer your question?
I got, but just I know today I did, but just I need to revisit a little bit for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I need
Simple. Like if you see this one in our example, we have created the same environment, right? We have created this exact environment, and this is a user, right? Developer one, right? So this developer one is sitting on his machine and doing an RDP from his machine and getting into the VM, application VM, via internet, right? But this developer has got an account in the Azure AD.
Yeah.
But in this example, I did not use that account. I just showed you how do we give access to the resources, right? But I did not use it. So here what happens is you need to have the domain controller, right? We spoke about domain controllers, right?
Yeah.
And that is where domain authentication comes into picture. Means your VM, you should join this VM to the domain, and after joining that VM to the domain, then the user can use the domain credentials, right? Otherwise you cannot use it, right? So likewise, we can deploy the resource groups and resources within a resource group, right? And for example now, who is this actually? Developer, right? This is a developer, and this developer, what permissions does he have on this resource group? What privileges did we give him? What level of access does he have on this resource group? I mean, what RBAC role did we give it to this resource group? Right? If you go to access control, I'm a developer here. View my access. If I click on view my access, it will show me what level of access do I have on this resource group. So this is again a contributor role granted on this resource group from the security groups, because I'm a member of the security groups getting contributor role on this resource group. This is how I can check my access. And now since I am a contributor here, so what happens? Can I see the storage accounts here? I can see the storage account. And can I create a storage account here as a developer? Let us see. Right. So here by default it goes into the same RG where I am already on. So I'm creating another resource group here. I'm calling it as 10. Right. I'm selecting everything as it is and creating it. Create it means who am I actually? Developer 1. So developer 1 again, what did he do? What did he do now? He has added another storage account now like this. Right. So he has created another storage account like this. Now we have two storage accounts in the same account, same RG. Right. This was created by the developer because he has got a contributor role on the RG level, and then he can read, write, execute and delete anything within this RG. So that is the goal here. So now he has created it, and once he goes to the storage accounts, he can see the newly created storage account as well in a moment. So it is still getting deployed, right? If you want to see what's happening with your deployment, you can click on notification and its deployment is in progress. And now you can see it here. It shows up shortly. Once this notification ends, you will see the resource here. Now it is ready now. And just do a refresh and you would see the second storage account shortly. And couple of times you have to do it. Right? You have your second one. Right? So this is how you are granting access to the people. And top to bottom end-to-end process I showed you. End-to-end process I showed you, how to create it, how to create resources, how to grant permissions to the users, how to create users, how to create groups, everything I showed you top to bottom, end-to-end. This is what, that's it. There is no difference. Whenever you are working outside of the whenever you are working in Azure environment, this is how you will get the requests. They will submit a ticket to build test environment, to build QA environment, to build dev environment, and they will give the list of resources to be added in that environment. And accordingly, you have to build all the required resources within this resource group, and you will grant permissions to this resource group for the security group, and then they will have access to this resource groups and also resources to this resource group. Right? So this is how your resource groups will be helpful. Right? And now assume that I am the developer 1. Right? Assume it's me, developer 1, and my manager asks me, hey developer, can you give me the list of resources in the environment? So what I'll do, I'll just go here. Right? I'll go here, I'm inside the resource group, I'll export the sheet here. And I will share this sheet to my manager. And before sharing, what I will do, I will eliminate all unwanted columns or rows here, right? Because he doesn't require any NIC name, this and that. It doesn't require. He just requires the resource names, right? So if you see here, what resources do we have here? Resource type. We have 2 storage accounts, and we have virtual machine, public IP. So likewise, you can just sort out this one, right, by going to sort A to Z, right? And here you have disks. So disks again I can eliminate, because see, he just wants to see the resources, right? So what I will do, I will just keep this environment here. I'll remove all the unwanted stuff here, right? So 1, 2, right? These things I will remove it, and I'll give him the list here, right? And these are the resources. This is again 2 public IPs I have, virtual machines I have, network I have, storage account I have, SQL DB I have. So this is the list of resources. So this list of resources, what I will do, I will share it with my company, my manager. Likewise, so all the resources you see, test is a common tag in them. So here I did not give it because I just copied from the command, right? I should have taken test here, but ultimately you can give him the list here. Whoever is asking you to give me the environment list, this is how you can produce the list and share it with your managers. So it's easy, right? So this is an application. Auto insurance is an application. What are the resources it's being used? So this is the list. This is the list. It is using 2 storage accounts, 2 virtual machines, 1 SQL DB, 1 VNet. It is part of. Likewise, you can share in the list. Right? So that is the beauty of managing your resource groups. Right? And for example, I am a developer 1. Right? And developer 1, and now since I'm a developer 1, what I do, I have created this second, the 10, right? Number 10 storage account I have created, and I feel like this is not required. I feel like, and I don't know the significance, but ultimately I feel like this is not required, and what I do, I'll simply go here. Within the resource group, selecting the resource, clicking on delete, and I say proudly confirm yes. And is it stopping me doing that? Because what privileges do I have here on this one? Right? RWXD. That means read, write, execute and delete. With this D permission, I am able to delete the storage account, and I have deleted the storage account. Right? I have deleted this. Knowingly or unknowingly, I have deleted it. And assume that as soon as I did that, it is deleting. As soon as I did that, I see a chaos. I see again people started shouting, something broken. And nobody knows that I deleted it. Since I have permission and I could delete it, after deleting, there started a chaos. Means again something broken at some place. And then investigation begins. Once the investigation begins, they will realize that the storage account used to be in a wrong RG. It was a production storage box. It was placed in a wrong RG, and this developer unknowingly deleted that RG, right? Because he has got a permission to delete, he happily could delete it, right? And now it all leads to chaos. To overcome such problems, what I can do as a manager or as a administrator, anything which I feel very important to the company, what I will do? I will go to logs here. Assume this is a resource group, and I will go to logs here and I will protect it. Means I will lock it. Hope all of you are with me. Right? So here what I'll do, RG logged. So I select delete option here. And say OK. That's it. Now what happens? I'm again coming back here. Developer 1. Now again calmly trying to delete this second storage. Right? Or any resource, not only storage. He's trying to delete it now again. Right? He won't be able to delete it now because the resource has been logged now. So any resource you think it is important for your organization, you should implement locks. So lock is simply literally means locking, means you are stopping for somebody from deleting. What is the type of lock I chose here? Delete type of lock is logged. means nobody will be able to delete anything within this resource group. Likewise, you can protect all your business critical based applications and all its workloads by locking it. So I just locked it, and now the developer will not have ability to delete it. At some point it will simply show it, you cannot delete it. It will simply throw an error, you cannot delete it. So this way I can protect my important resources against accidental or intentional or inadvertent deletions. I can protect, right? So that is the power of locks here. This is the topic we thought of talking about, right? So locks actually provide protection for my resources against accidental deletions, right? There are two types of locks: read locks, read only locks, and delete locks. Read only means people can access it, but they cannot write anything within that resource groups. They cannot write, they can just read it. Delete means they can read but cannot delete it. I'm repeating, read only means resource group will be in locked mode. It will not allow them to create any resources within this resource group. Delete means it will not allow them to delete it. Depending on the need, you should select read only or delete. So read only for the people who are, again, for example, sales guys, marketing guys, they will be using some photos, videos within the storage account, and for those guys you don't want to enable them to modify anything in the storage account. In such cases you can go for read only. And for your developers, you can go for delete lock option. Once you apply this, they won't be able to delete anything within the resource group or any resource rather, right? So this way you can execute a delete command on one selected items failed. I cannot delete it because it clearly shows me that there is something called logged. I cannot delete it. Though I have what permissions do I have here? Read, write, execute, and delete. Delete permission is very much there, but still I cannot delete. What mistake did I do earlier? I deleted a production instance, though it is wrongly placed in test RG, but inadvertently or unknowingly I deleted a storage account which has got a sensitive data or important data. Again, it will be a problem for the company to retrieve the data, restore the data, restore the applications, right? So for such situations to overcome, we have locks. We have locks in place. So locks will protect my critical workloads against accidental deletions, read-only locks and delete locks, right? So likewise, we have locks. Any questions so far?
If delete the storage box, the entire data will lost. There is any load balancer thing is not.
It is gone. Gone means gone. That's it. Yeah, entire data is lost now. Because see, losing in the sense, usually what happens is whenever anything is built, right? So that time people will ensure that there is no single point of failure. If there is no single point of failure, then you're good. What if you have only one instance? Where will you get it from? From the backups, right? If you have, unfortunately, if you have now no backups, in that case, you can't get it back. But very well, you can approach Microsoft to get your lost resource back. But again, you will see interruption, right? Until Microsoft comes back, and again until they restore things, right? So you will be in a chaos. Situation will be very chaotic, right? To overcome such problems, we have locks. That is the purpose of locks. So whenever you have significant, important, critical business related, business critical, right? Those things we will protect using locks. And then we have something called moving resources.
So that read-only locking is there, no?
Yeah.
Read-only locks.
Yeah.
Give me one. Show me one example, sir. I didn't get.
Okay. For example, who am I now here? Developer. Right? I'm a developer. What I will do, I will go ahead and create the storage account here, for example. I'm trying to create a storage account. Right, and naming it something called 11. Right. I'm not using 10. I don't know why it is taken 10. Right. Review and create. Right. So as a developer, I am creating something inside the RG, right? And now, what is the type of lock I have already placed in place? Delete lock. And this delete example I showed you just now. So now what I will do, once the resource gets created, once this deployment completes, I'll convert it into read-only lock. And once I do a read-only lock, what happens? This developer will not be able to write anything to the RG. Means he cannot create, he cannot delete, because it's in read-only mode. Right? Got the point, or still gap?
Yes, little bit clear.
Yeah, see, simple. So you, as a developer, now I could delete it, and I can see the storage account now. Right? If I just do a refresh, I can see my secondly created storage account. Right? Just do a refresh. Right? My second storage account. Did it stop me? As a developer, it didn't stop me creating it. Though I have what? Delete lock, means it will stop me by deleting, but it will not stop me by creating. And now what I'll do, I'll edit the lock here. I'll make it as read-only lock and say OK. Right? And now what happens? I'll go back now. Now I'll again try to delete this one. I cannot delete, and try to create something. I cannot create, because it's entire RG is in locked mode. Locked means again read-only mode it is. If I try to create the storage account now, it will not let me create it because it's in read-only mode now. Right? Can you see the difference here? I can't see the RG at all. Earlier I was able to see. Now I am not seeing the RG. It is telling me to create a new RG.
Now I understood.
Yeah. So now what happens is, even though it shows, right? Even though it shows, if I choose here, for example, 12, and try to create it, it simply says validation failed, and scope is logged. Earlier I was able to create, but now I cannot create it. So likewise, situation, right? It all depends on the situation. Examples, you need to take a lot of examples. For example, there is a sales team which will access this storage account, and this storage account has got a lot of videos, pictures, demonstration presentations, lot of such audio video files are there. And why do you think they need permissions to read write? Which read only is sufficient, right, for them? And those things you can just protect it like this, just by locking it. Got it? So this is how you can think about resource locks. And the next comes moving of the resources. See,
sorry to interrupt. If you go to developer, there is a one more lock option. For that, what we can do?
Okay. So what I understand is this one. Let me see this. So there is another developer here. So for this guy, what we have done?
No, if it is developer only. So where we are giving this lock, all these things to, from the main domain admin user, or
here we are applying locks here.
Admin level or developer level?
No. See, this is end user, right? This is end user, developer, and I am there here on top of it, right? It's me actually. I am doing everything. Yeah, this is admin. I am doing everything, right? He will not have access anything. I am administering this. We are learning administration. You should always treat
Yes.
yourself as administrator. Don't think about these end. These are experiments.
So if you go to the developer this login, there is one more this. For him also there is a lock option is there.
Okay, I'm a developer now.
Yeah, if you go this.
Storage account.
Yeah, here also there is a lock. For him also there is a locks.
He can also lock it.
Okay.
Provided he should have permissions to do that. Because it's already, see, RG logged means this resource is actually coming from the RG, right? This RG it is coming from. So this entire RG is also already logged. So he doesn't have permissions. If he has permissions, he can do that.
Permissions. Suppose if you want to, where can you give the permissions?
You need to customize that. You need to no. So first thing is you need to again draft it. What is it? What permissions you want to offer them, right? You need to come up with a plan here. What is it you want to do here? Developer 1, developer 2, developer 3, right? All these three are part of one SG called developers, right? And for these developers, you have set a permission on the RG level. What permissions did you give? Contributor permission you gave. Means you in the sense it's me, right? I gave it intentionally. And now there is a requirement to exclude this guy from these permissions. Means this guy should not be a contributor but should be an owner. Right? Getting my point? For this entire group, I gave one common permission called contributor, but now you are saying the customer requirement is this guy should have special privilege like owner. Then I can make him an owner, and then what happens? He will be getting read, write, execute, delete, and ownership permissions. He will be getting. Once he gets these permissions, he can do anything. Right? He can do anything. He can implement lock, he can remove locks, he can delete, write, he can do anything. So individually you have to target. But we don't do this, we don't go with this approach. For example, there is a lead. Right? So lead 1 will be there. So this lead will be granted this permission, but not these guys. These guys will always be having the same common privileges. They won't be having different privileges because these are common, right? All are common. No one is special to other, right? Unless it is a requirement, yeah, then definitely what happens? You need to again contact lead, and lead will be having ownership role. And since he has got ownership role, he can do anything. Any of these activities, read, write, execute, and delete, and give ownership to others. He can control, but not for the individual levels, because it becomes difficult. Like 3 users is okay. Do you think only 3 users will be there in a department? We don't know, right? There can be 1 or 100. We don't know. But usually it is all security groups. We will target permissions. We don't individually give permissions to the individuals. We will target the group because this will eliminate a lot of administration. Right? Yeah. So coming back to the movement here, right? So now what happens sometimes? So now VM is there in one resource group. Assume which resource group is it there in? Let us take an example, right? So if you see this one, right? So now if you see this one, now there is a requirement to move this VM here, right? Earlier this VM was here. Now there is a requirement to move that VM into another RG. They wanted this one. When you are doing this one, this RG and this RG will enter into locked mode, right? For example, so there are 3 developers, developer 1, developer 2, and again developer 3 are working with this environment. All of them are working with this environment. And this developer 1, what is he doing? Developer 2 rather. So this developer 2, actually, he moved the VM, means he moved this VM from here to here. He moved it. When he moved it, this developer, and this developer, none of them will be able to work in these 2 RGs. Nothing but it will be in locked state. Means they can't modify anything within those 2 RGs at that particular moment. Right? Whenever there is a resource movement from one RG to the another RG, other people, including the person who is doing it, will not be able to work further. Means this both RGs will get into locked mode. You can't read, you can't write, you can't do anything with this resource groups. So that sacrifice you should be aware of, right? So for example, I'm a root admin here, root administrator. So now what I want to move the VM, right? So for example, this is the VM, I want to move it, right? If I want to move the VM, what happens is I need to choose all the items here, means what all the items are there pertaining to that resource. I should be able to move it to the next available resource group. So for example, so here what I want is, I want to move the test VM, NIC card, right? VM energy, NIC card, and also the public IP and the VM. Means these 4 items I want to move it to another RG. Move to a different resource group, right? So here it shows me this is the source resource group and the target resource group. Which resource group you want to move them to? I want to move them to production resource group, and I say next, and then the validation will go on, and again it will fail. What is the reason for moving it? So locked, resource group is locked. That is the reason I can't do anything, right? And for that purpose, what I have to do? I have to go back to the resource group, and I should remove the lock, right? So here I'll go to lock here, and I will remove the lock. So here I'll just delete the lock, right? And then I'll perform a movement now. I go back to the resource group, and I will go to the resource group, and I will select all the resources which I want to move, right? So here I will choose the public IP, network security group, and the NIC card, and also the disk also you have to move, right? We cannot, right? You have to select all the remnants, means whatever VM has, you should select all of those. So this is again app here, not these things. Actually, I want to go with test VM movement. So what I will do, I will choose all the test VM items. So this is the test VM items components. Means virtual machine with public IP, with network security group, with interface, and with the disk. I want to move it to another RG. After selecting all of the required components, what you can do, click on move here, move to another resource group, move to another subscription. Both you can do. But now in our case, I want to move it to different resource group, right? And here you should have a source. Source I have already selected, and for that you need to have a destination. Then I have to choose the destination RG and say next. And it will perform a validation. Means sometimes people will ask you to do this activity. People will expect some work like this. So earlier this was here, right? This used to be here. Now they're asking you to move it to this one. And this is how to move it. Means not only VM, right? VM means it will have NIC card, it will have energy, it will have disk, it will have VM itself. All those things you have to consider and move together. Once everything validates, then you'll see the next option highlighted. Once you click on next option, then the movement will be taken place. But during this operation, what happens? Both the RGs, source RG and the target RG, will be getting into locked mode. Means you cannot do any activity within these two RGs. That you should be very, very careful and be aware of. Right? So that is how you think about movement of the resources. Usually we don't do that activity without the downtime. Right? If it is a development environment, test environment, and you can play around, but usually if it is a prod environment, we don't do that. And there are certain things which you cannot move. See, when moving resources, both source and group are logged. And services that cannot be moved are Azure AD, domain services, express route, site recovery, and some other components which you cannot move them. Only certain workloads like storage account or some VMs, databases, those things you can move, but not every service. Right? And removing resources also. Like if you want to remove resources, yeah, it's very easy. Removing is very easy, right? Anything making is difficult, but breaking is very easy, right? Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. If you want to delete anything, what you do, you just, for example, if you want to delete a VM, you can do that. Select the VM and delete it. But again, it will delete only the VM, but it will not delete the disk, NIC, energy, all other components it will not delete. If you want to delete all other items along with it, you need to go to resources here and select whichever item you want to delete. Especially when it is VM. So VM means VM is always associated with a public IP, network security group, energy, and the disk. All these 5 components you need to select together and delete it. So the deleting is easy. That is the reason what we do. Now my developer, for example, my developer said his work is completed. Assume the work is over now. He said, Narendra, can you please tear it down? Decommission, tear it down, or delete it. And for this purpose, what I can do, I can simply go to resource group, right? And here I will choose this resource group, right? I'll just click on this resource group, whichever I want to delete, and click on delete. Click on delete resource group. And once I do this, all the items within it will be lost in one shot. And only thing is I need to perform this confirmation, right? So I need to just type in the name of the resource group here, and once I do that, delete. The moment you delete, click on delete, all the resources within this resource group will be lost. It's like deleting a root folder along with the subfolders. So this is how you can also delete the resource group in one shot. Whenever you want to remove all hundreds of items within the resource group, right? You can't delete 100 items one by one. You can simply remove the entire RG in one shot, and there ends the matter. Right? So this is how you can delete your resources.
And delete one.
We will do that. So now the VM has been, validation has been succeeded, right? Once you click on this next here, then the VM will be moved to one resource group to other resource group, right? So if you start this operation, what happens? I can't perform delete operation. This operation will not be successful because there is some activity going on right here. This will be blocking me. You tell me now which activity you want to do. You want me to do move operation, or you want me to delete operation? Choice is yours. If I do this one, everything will be lost in one shot. Over. Everything will be lost. It will take me maybe 5 minutes or so, but everything, if you see here, all the resources will be lost. Because all top to bottom, all the resources, whatever we have built, will be lost in one shot. Because I've selected resource group to delete, right? And it deletes the entire content of the resource group. And it's a very, you should do it very, very carefully while doing this activity, because it may break the things, right? Though you have permissions doesn't mean that you can do whatever you like, right? You should be very, very careful while deleting this RGs. Now it is deleting process is again progress, right? Delete operation is in progress. It's getting deleted, right? So that is how you can go ahead and delete the things here, right? And then we have something called resource limits. So this is again most of the, if you're not talking, can you go on mute, please? Yeah. So this is again something called resource limits you have, and this resource limits, what you can do, if you want to see the limits, go to subscription, and inside subscriptions, see, resource limits means you want to understand this one. You have Azure, right? And my manager wants to understand the resource limit in Azure. So he is asking me questions like this: how many subscriptions I can create, how many VMs I can create, how many VNets I can create, and how many subnets I can create, how many resource groups I can create. He's asking me all these questions, right? My manager is asking me all these questions. Where can I get all these questions? I need to browse, I need to Google, right? Instead of Googling, you can directly point him to the location here. You can directly take him to the subscription. This is a subscription, and inside the subscription you have something called usage and quota. You can click on this one. Once you click on this quota, and here itself you can show him, you can lively bring him and share your screen and show him here like this, right? Which is the location, and here you can select clear all, right? And now I show all. So I want to see everything, all the resource types, I want to see it in here. So here it says public IPs, how many 10 public IPs I can create, how many virtual networks I can create, 1000 virtual networks, how many network security groups I can create, 5000, how many network interfaces I can create, 65,000 interfaces, means 65,000 IPs I can create, storage accounts, 250 storage accounts you can create. Likewise, there is a list here, lengthy list is here. So from here, whichever he is asking, what questions did he ask me here? He asked me how many subscriptions can I create. So subscriptions, it may not show it here, but it is 800. Limit is 800. So you can say, you can just simply search it here. If it is showing, fine. But it shows me only subnets, not the subscriptions. But I know how many subscriptions I can create. 800 subscriptions I can create in an account. And what is the next thing he's asking me? He's asking me to, oh, did I close it? Sorry. Yeah, so likewise he's asking me how many resource groups I can create, right? It is not showing all the thing here. And for example, how many virtual machines I can create. So virtual networks, 1000 virtual networks you can create, and 25,000 virtual machines you can create in one subscription. So likewise, you can come here and see the limit, quota limit. But these are some of the numbers you should remember. In interviews, they will ask you how many VM scale sets I can create, 2500, how many subnets I can create, how many VNets I can create, how many virtual machines I can create. Likewise, they will be asking you, you need to have some numbering in your mind, and then you can answer them, right? So that is the quota limit. Assume that you have already crossed this limit. You have already created 1000 virtual networks in your subscription. We have already created, and now you are trying to create the 1001. In such cases, you can submit a request to Microsoft. You can say request increase. You can simply click it here and type what is that you want to ask Microsoft. Then the Microsoft will check your usage and they will increase the quota limit. It happens then and there. They won't take much time, right? The only thing is you need to request. Whenever you want to increase the quota of any resources, you can simply click on quota here, increase request here, and just submit a request to them. Over. And then they will consider your request and again they will resolve it. So what is that? Summary. You should give some summary. Issue type. Right? Issue type is again increase quota. And what is the subscription? So here what is the quota here? Which quota you want to increase? Right? Likewise you need to select all the items here and accordingly submit the solution. And accordingly Microsoft will increase the quota. And coming back to the notification, we have deleted successfully all the resources within the resource group by deleting the resource group directly at a top level. Right? So that is how you can think about resource limits here. Right? So resources have default limit as known as quota. I mean, whenever you want to increase the quota, you can simply submit a request here and increase the quota. Right? And yeah, so this one again, when we come back next week, we will learn about Portal, Cloud Shell, PowerShell, ARM templates, and so on. But otherwise, I'm good here. So if you have any questions, let me know.
Sir, go back to the slide.
Which one, quota?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Previous one, sir.
Yeah, so this one, if you want to delete the resource group using your PowerShell command, you can do this. And one more thing I can show you now. For example, in our labs, I don't know we have seen or not so far, you have Microsoft Labs I'm sharing you, right? So for example, okay, I don't know whether you have implemented this one or not. So let us see that. RBAC role, right? Right. So implement management groups, implement RBAC roles, right? In this lab, yeah, so there is something called create custom RBAC roles. Let's task 2, and this task 2 requires some files, supporting files. This is the file you need it, and that file I will be placing it in our shared location, right? So you will see the file like this, right? ARM templates, there will be a folder like this, and here you will be seeing all the files here, and labs will be there, and inside labs all the lab numbers will be there. So now if you go back to this lab, what number is it? Lab 2. And here all files labs 2 az2a custom role definition.json, right? So you need this file. If you want this file, what you can do, you can open it and you can see the definition here. And after seeing the definition, it says replace the subscription ID placeholder in the JSON file with your subscription ID. Means yesterday I showed you, right? This subscription ID you need to replace it. This ID you need to replace it with your subscription ID. Means where will you get this file first of all? So I am going to place it in our shared location. So here you'll be seeing it here. I'm uploading right now, right? Uploading folder. This is the 4th folder. I'm uploading it here. Right? All Microsoft Labs requires this folder access. Means this folder will have all the templates. All ARM templates will be there in this folder. From today onwards, you will have to practice this one. And how to access this one is, again, I told you, I'm placing you here. And this you need to download it into your local machine. I'm repeating. In order to access this folder, you need to download this folder and put it in your folder like this. You need to copy it somewhere in your local machine. And in order to access it, how will you access it? By going to this Cloud Shell here, right? By clicking on this Cloud Shell and signing in here, means Cloud Shell will actually create a mount point, and that mount point will be your storage account. So you need to just create a storage account mount point. Once you create that mount point, you will be getting access to the storage account and again Cloud Shell. This is Cloud Shell on the browser. And once you have this one, you can upload those ARM templates to the Cloud Shell as and when your lab talks about. So now the lab is talking about in portal open Cloud Shell, right? Clicking on the toolbar, what I've done just now, and once you create it, it will ask you to create a storage account, which I have already just done it. And then in the toolbar Cloud Shell pane, click upload download files, right? And then you need to upload the file, whatever file they are asking you to upload, that file you need to upload, right? Before that what I need to do, they were asking me to update the subscription ID, right? That I should do it prior to doing this. I should do it and keep the file ready, and then I can upload it. But ultimately, most of our labs will be using JSON templates, and these JSON templates are already built in, which will ease our lives. For example, if you want to build a data center, the JSON file will simply create it for us, right? It's already there. Only thing is you should know how to use it. And again, anyways, in upcoming sessions also I'll be talking about. But for now, to unblock you from this lab, what you can do the same thing. What am I doing here now? So assuming that I have already updated the subscription ID, and now how will I upload it? So here, this is the Cloud Shell I'm on. Maximize this, and here you have upload download files here, and say upload. And once you upload here, go to the folder which you want to upload. File which you want to upload. Which is the file now? Lab 2. So lab again 2 has got one file only. Just click on that and say open. And this file will get uploaded onto your mount point. And you can say ls, right? And there it will show you the file here, the one what you have uploaded. And from here, what is your command? What is your next command saying here? New definition. It's asking you to just run this command, right? Just copy this one and run it in your Cloud Shell here. Paste it here and run it. That is what it is saying. Your instruction is saying to new role definition, means you are creating a custom definition, RBAC role, right? So it is actually, what is it doing actually? It is creating a support request contributor name as a RBAC role, where allows to create support requests, right? And it is applied at a resource group level read only, and again it is allowing you to perform all the actions, and it is applied at a resource group level here, and the subscription ID is this one. So this you need to update it and run this command. Once you do that, then you'll be able to perform the next step. Right? It's all self-explanatory, but only thing is this piece you need to understand here. If you have any questions, let me know how to upload the templates. Right? So all our Microsoft labs will be like this. Most of the labs, see all over whatever labs you have, 3 lab 3. Again, you have parameters and template file. We didn't speak about ARM templates yet, but before speaking about them, I'm just giving you a hint how to upload your ARM templates to unblock you from the lab 2, because lab we have already completed. This module 2 we have already completed, right? So apart from my training, my labs, this is again Microsoft Labs you can achieve, right? So you need to follow all the instructions here. All right. Yeah. So with that said, I'm done here. Let's connect next week. If you have any questions, ping me.
Sir, today's session, your lab documents are uploaded, sir?
So what did I, yeah, so here what happens is my labs, yeah, so here I don't know whether I have any labs here, but I have already uploaded something called Microsoft Azure subscriptions and resources. I have already done it, and RBAC role practice I have done it, and sample policies I think I didn't do it, and that's it. Only today's you just need to see my video and do it. We don't have any particular labs particularly because those labs are again in yesterday's the same thing, right? Only complete 2 labs. I mean, third, what you can do, third module, just refer to my video and do it. That's it. Because they're creating a storage account, they're all coming from the other areas, which I just demonstrated practically. For those, we don't have any labs. Instead, we have labs called something like Microsoft, right? In this one, we have something called 3ABC, because I have not covered these things, right? I didn't speak about these things, so there is no point in giving you these labs, right? So what you do, complete all 2 labs and all the labs what I have driven directly, right? Follow that, right? Just referring my video.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. And after that we will see these labs and all those things, right? And yeah, so once you're done with this, you can just close this one, and you can go to storage accounts and delete your storage account what you have just created for my Cloud Shell. Anyways, don't worry about this thing, but do the labs by watching my video. That way you're all good for the today's session. All right. All right then, so let's connect back next week.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, no problem. Bye.